This young man is somebody that could stay at number one for a really long time and keep winning majors with that type of attitude.
At 23, Carlos Alcaraz has finally confirmed that fans were right to question what was happening behind his public image. Every smile, shortened answer, and unexpected decision had added another piece to a puzzle he has now addressed himself. Rather than ending the conversation, his confirmation has made the stakes even greater. Somehow, the tennis world can analyze a forehand frame by frame, yet remain surprised when the player holding the racket finally tells the truth. The real significance rests in why Alcaraz chose this moment and what his admission means for the next stage of his career. Before reaching that answer, the hidden sequence behind his decision needs to be reconstructed. Drop your prediction before hearing the full explanation. Subscribe, because this confirmation changes the Alcaraz story. The answer arrived on August 20th. Alcaraz confirmed that he would return to competitive tennis at the US Open after 4 months away with a right wrist injury. He delivered the news with football transfer reporter Fabrizio Romano, borrowing Romano's "Here we go" line to make the announcement official. Tennis had spent months asking when Alcaraz would return. His response was short, playful, and impossible to misunderstand. New York was the target. The comeback was on. That announcement settled the first question, but it opened several harder ones. Alcaraz had not played an ATP match since April. He had missed the heart of the clay season, the entire grass swing, and the North American events that normally prepare a contender for Flushing Meadows. Now he was not returning at a smaller tournament where the early rounds offer room to breathe. He was walking directly into a Grand Slam as the defending champion. Subtle, Carlos. Subtle. The decision sounds bold because it is bold. A best-of-5 match places different demands on the body than a controlled training session. New York brings heat, noise, late finishes, long rallies, and opponents who will examine the wrist from the opening game. Nobody in the draw will politely avoid his forehand side because recovery has been difficult. Professional tennis does not hand out sympathy games. Alcaraz's last competitive appearance came at the Barcelona Open. He defeated Otto Virtanen 6-4, 6-2 in the first round, yet the score hid what happened during the match. After a return late in the opening set, his right wrist gave way. The discomfort increased as play continued. Tests the following morning showed that the problem was more serious than Alcaraz and his team had first expected. He withdrew before facing Tomas Machak. During the press conference, the usual smile was gone. Alcaraz explained that he needed to listen to his body and protect his future. Those words now matter because they established the rule governing everything that followed. The team would not gamble merely to satisfy a tournament calendar. Each return date would depend on the wrist, not the noise around it. Madrid disappeared first. Missing his home Masters event hurt, especially after he had already endured injury trouble there in previous seasons. Alcaraz still refused to produce a precise comeback date. More tests were required. Recovery, inconveniently, does not read promotional schedules. Rome and Roland Garros disappeared next. That decision carried a much heavier sporting cost. Alcaraz was defending champion at both events, and Roland Garros had become one of the defining stages of his young career. He surrendered the opportunity to defend thousands of ranking points and compete for another major, rather than force a damaged wrist through weeks of clay court hitting. Queens and Wimbledon then joined the list. In May, Alcaraz said his recovery was progressing and he felt much better, but he was still not ready to compete. Better was not the same as ready. That difference became the central message of his absence, even when supporters preferred a happier translation. By August, Cincinnati looked like the natural return point. It offered hard-court matches, tournament pressure, and valuable preparation before New York. Alcaraz had also won the Cincinnati title in 2025. Instead, he withdrew again on August 4th. Another comfortable comeback theory landed outside the baseline. That withdrawal made the US Open question unavoidable. Either Alcaraz would miss another major, or he would begin his comeback on the largest possible stage without a single official match since Barcelona. Training images showed him hitting again. Sessions with Holger Rune added fuel to the belief that New York remained possible. Still, practice footage could not serve as confirmation. Players test movements, shorten sessions, and control intensity away from competition. Cameras captured the clean forehand, they rarely capture the conversation afterward. Then came August 20th. Alcaraz finally said yes. But here is the detail the announcement did not settle. Returning to the draw proves that Alcaraz is ready to compete, not that he is ready to survive 7 best-of-5 matches. That distinction controls the entire story. Medical clearance answers whether the wrist can handle competition. Match readiness asks whether timing, endurance, decision-making, and confidence can survive Grand Slam pressure. Those are connected tests, but they are not identical. A healthy wrist cannot automatically replace 4 months of competitive rhythm. Alcaraz entered the injury break with a 22-3 record in 2026. He had completed the career Grand Slam by winning the Australian Open, then added the Doha title. At 23, he already owned 7 major trophies and had demonstrated that every surface belonged within his range. This was not a player searching for proof that he could win. It was a champion trying to recover the level that made winning look normal. That reputation creates its own trap. When Alcaraz returns, the standard will not be an encouraging first-round victory. Supporters will study his serve speed, forehand acceleration, return position, and reactions after long rallies. One shake of the hand will become a medical conference. One missed forehand will receive more analysis than a national budget. Such is life when brilliance becomes the minimum expectation. The wrist matters throughout his game. It helps control the racket through heavy forehands, sharp returns, touch shots, and defensive changes of direction. Yet no responsible outsider can declare exactly how the injury will respond under tournament stress. Only Alcaraz, his doctors, and his team possess that information. The confirmed fact is that they approved the return. The unanswered question is how the wrist behaves when a match becomes physical, tense, and long. New York will test his confidence as much as his mechanics. Injured players sometimes return with the body cleared, but the mind still protecting the damaged area. A fraction of hesitation changes contact points. Safer targets replace fearless acceleration. The player begins calculating whether a shot is worth the strain, and elite opponents notice hesitation faster than television viewers notice a scoreboard update. Alcaraz has built his identity around freedom. He improvises from impossible positions, attacks when caution seems sensible, and treats a defensive rally like an invitation to create something unreasonable. That style makes him electric. It also demands complete trust in his body. If the wrist remains in his thoughts, even briefly, his greatest strength can lose its spontaneity. The opening rounds therefore carry unusual importance. Normally, a leading seed uses them to settle into conditions and sharpen patterns. Alcaraz needs that familiar process while also rebuilding match tolerance. A straight sets opener would protect energy and provide clean evidence. A 4-hour struggle would answer tougher questions, but charge a physical price before the tournament has properly begun. His opponent will understand this calculation. Expect heavy serving followed by attacks toward the forehand, deep returns that force rushed preparation, and rallies designed to make Alcaraz hit repeatedly under pressure. Nobody needs access to his medical file to build that plan. They only need to know which wrist was injured and how long he was absent. The absence of a warm-up event makes his first match more unpredictable. Training can reproduce pace. Practice sets can recreate scoring. Neither fully recreates the moment when a player faces breakpoint under lights and cannot ask for another basket of balls. Competition adds consequence, and consequence tightens movement. Still, treating Alcaraz as helpless would be equally foolish. He has returned from disrupted preparation before and won at the highest level. In 2024, a right forearm issue limited his clay buildup before Roland Garros. Doubts followed him into Paris. He responded by winning the title, thanking his team for guiding him through a difficult month. That precedent offers encouragement, not a guarantee. The injury is different, the absence is longer, the preparation is thinner. Historical success proves that Alcaraz can solve problems quickly. It does not mean every physical problem follows the same script. Tennis history is full of champions who returned brilliantly and others who discovered that confidence had arrived several weeks before their body did. The location, however, works in his favor. Flushing Meadows is not neutral territory in the Alcaraz story. He won his first Grand Slam there in 2022 and became the youngest men's world number 1 in ATP history at 19. New York introduced him not simply as a future star, but as a champion willing to survive exhausting matches deep into the night. 3 years later, he returned and won the 2025 title. Alcaraz defeated Jannik Sinner 6-2, 3-6, 6-1, 6-4 in the final, reclaimed the #1 ranking, and collected his 6th major. Across 7 rounds, he was broken only 3 times. The performance combined imagination with control, proving that the entertainer had also become brutally efficient. Now he comes back as a different version of the same champion. Last year, New York represented command. This year, it represents uncertainty. The defending champion will walk onto familiar courts carrying familiar memories, but his body arrives without the match volume that supported his previous run. That choice reveals his competitive calculation. Waiting beyond New York would protect him from immediate Grand Slam stress, but it would also extend the absence and surrender his title without a defense. Returning now gives him a chance to compete where belief is strongest. His history at the event provides emotional fuel that no smaller stop can match. Ranking pressure also sits in the background. Alcaraz entered the comeback as world number 2, behind Sinner, after losing the top position during his absence. Missed tournaments removed opportunities to defend or earn points, while rivals continued playing. At the US Open, he carries the champion's full allocation from 2025. An early defeat would therefore damage more than his title defense. Yet chasing points cannot become the primary medical argument. Alcaraz and his team already showed that ranking losses would not force an unsafe return. They sacrificed Rome, Roland Garros, Wimbledon, and Cincinnati. After making those choices, it would make little sense to abandon caution at the final step. Their repeated withdrawals give the New York decision credibility. That does not remove risk. It explains why the risk was accepted. What remains unknown is significant. Alcaraz has not played a full tournament match since April. Nobody outside the team knows how the wrist responds after 3 demanding sets, then another practice day, then another match. The draw is also unknown. A dangerous first-round opponent can turn a planned adjustment period into an immediate survival test. His serving rhythm deserves attention. Service games allowed him to dominate New York in 2025, and efficient holds shortened the physical load across the fortnight. If rust lowers his first serve percentage, return games become more stressful and sets become longer. Conversely, strong serving would protect the wrist by reducing neutral rallies and giving him simpler first balls. Recovery between rounds will become the decisive factor. A player can feel excellent during one match and wake up differently the next morning. Grand Slam success requires the body to absorb damage, recover, and repeat the process 7 times. Therefore, the most useful signs will not come from one spectacular forehand. They will come from how Alcaraz moves 2 days later. His emotional response will matter too. Alcaraz has never hidden that enjoyment drives his best tennis. Long rehabilitation removes competition, crowds, and the immediate rewards that keep an athlete connected to the sport. Returning to New York restores all 3 at once. The first roar inside Ash will release 4 months of frustration, but excitement must be managed alongside patience. The rivalry picture adds another layer. Sinner took the #1 ranking from Alcaraz after beating him in the Monte Carlo final, the last tournament Alcaraz completed before Barcelona. Their rivalry had defined 3 consecutive Grand Slam finals in 2025. A healthy reunion in New York would instantly become the match everyone wants. The field will not cooperate. Hard-court specialists can take time away from him. Big servers can force tiebreaks before he finds return rhythm. Physical baseliners can stretch rallies and test endurance. Younger opponents will see a famous champion returning without match practice and recognize the largest opportunity of their season. Every round will answer a different question. The opener will test nerves and timing. The next match will test recovery. The middle rounds will reveal whether his patterns hold against stronger opposition. The second week, if he reaches it, will show whether the wrist and the rest of his body can survive accumulated stress. The confirmation ended the waiting, but the draw will begin the investigation. Each round will tell us whether Alcaraz has returned merely to play or returned ready to defend his crown. The calendar now moves quickly. US Open Fan Week begins on August 23rd, while main draw singles starts on August 30th. That leaves little time for dramatic changes. Alcaraz's remaining work is about refinement, adjusting to the balls, court speed, weather, and atmosphere while maintaining the wrist routine approved by his team. Practice in New York will attract constant attention. Observers will count serves, watch forehands, and search for grimaces. The most valuable information, though, will still come from his schedule. Full sessions followed by normal recovery would support confidence. Shortened work or repeated treatment would raise questions, although neither automatically proves a setback. The draw will determine how much patience he receives. A favorable opening matchup would let him measure range and build rhythm. An aggressive opponent with nothing to lose would force immediate answers. Seedings protect leading players from one another early, but they do not protect anyone from inspired tennis. His team has already won one battle by refusing rushed deadlines. 4 months away demanded patience from a player famous for speed. They accepted lost points, missed trophies, and uncomfortable questions. That discipline now needs to continue inside matches, where the temptation to prove complete recovery will be strongest. Success in New York should therefore have layers. Competing without pain is the first victory. Recovering normally between rounds is the second. Finding timing under pressure is the third. Challenging for the title comes after those foundations, even if Alcaraz himself enters believing he can win the entire event. That belief should not be mocked. Champions do not return to major tournaments hoping for a respectable photograph. Alcaraz knows he has won in New York twice, beaten the best players there, and handled pressure that broke older opponents. If the wrist holds and rhythm returns quickly, his ceiling remains the trophy. The danger lies in confusing ceiling with expectation. 4 months is a serious absence. 7 best-of-5 victories demand more than talent and memory. The fairest assessment sits between two lazy extremes. Alcaraz is neither guaranteed to dominate nor destined to break down. His confirmation gives tennis something it badly missed. Sinner said during the absence that the sport is better when Alcaraz is present. That judgment reflects more than rivalry. Alcaraz changes the energy of a draw. His speed, shot selection, emotion, and appetite for risk make routine exchanges feel temporary. New York will welcome that energy, then test it without mercy. The applause will be warm. The rallies will not. 4 months ago, Alcaraz sat behind a microphone in Barcelona and admitted the injury was more serious than expected. He chose the future over the next match. Tournament after tournament disappeared, yet the same principle remained. Return only when the body permitted it. Now the decision has changed. The wrist has passed enough private tests for Alcaraz and his team to accept the public one. That is what he finally confirmed. Not guaranteed fitness for 2 weeks, not another title, not victory over Sinner. He confirmed that waiting was over and competition would begin. The distinction protects the story from empty hype. A comeback announcement is not a trophy ceremony, it is permission to face uncertainty. Alcaraz has earned the right to step onto the court, but every point after that must still be won. If his body responds, New York becomes the stage for another remarkable recovery and a title defense few players would attempt under these conditions. If the wrist reacts or rust takes control, the comeback becomes the first step. In a longer return rather than the ending fans wanted, either outcome will reveal something important. The champion who left Barcelona in April was forced to surrender control. The player returning in August has chosen to confront the uncertainty rather than wait for perfect conditions that professional sport never provides. At 23, Alcaraz has already lived several careers inside one: teenage breakthrough, youngest number one, champion on every surface, rival to Sinner, injured star watching major tournaments continue without him. New York begins the next version. The smile will return, cameras will study it, opponents will ignore it. Once the first ball is struck, public image becomes irrelevant, and the wrist, the scoreboard, and Alcaraz's decisions will supply the only answers that matter. He has confirmed the comeback, now he must prove its timing. Do you believe Alcaraz can defend his US Open title after 4 months away, or has he chosen the hardest possible stage too soon? Drop your answer in the comments. If you follow the stories behind the rankings, subscribe and stay with us. The next chapter begins in New York.